Hi, it's Akaeda-chan again. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's time for the second episode of Storytime. Let's go.
Family time. There is one memory I have from my childhood that manages to always bring shivers down my spine if I dare to think about it. It has been the most curious thing, and to this day, I still remember it crystal clear. I was probably 8 to 10 years old, just a child, not aware of the world around me and its complex ways and history lurking around us. I lived in my head most of the time, making up imaginary friends when I had no real ones. I had a very rich imagination, but everything I thought up was very light and silly and fun in its core. Nothing scary, ever. Then, this one day, my parents decided to leave for a vacation and leave me with grandmother. In her house full of interesting hallways, creaking doors, a mouldy old basement, and an attic full of worn-out old junk with a winding slippery staircase leading to it. I was not happy at all. Grandmother was an old, stubborn and overall cold lady. She didn't enjoy children's company, and any kind of games or playfulness was altogether forbidden in her house. She mainly sat watching the TV in complete silence, took care of her plants or cleaned the house, mostly expecting me to be out of her hair. To behave like a good little girl. So I kept to myself and examined the hallways, the garden, the basement through and through. My very own expeditions of that miniature world. Mr. Rand and his friends, the Maggot family, respectively, in the garden, and the tadpoles residing in the creek nearby. I painted every door in my mind with the colors of my imagination and told stories about great adventurers in my mind. Then, one night, same as every night before, we climbed up the winding, slippery stairs to grandmother's bedroom in the attic. Mind you, the stairway was narrow and awful, and settled down for bed. She shut the lights without saying much and fell asleep almost right after. But awfully enough, I couldn't get any sleep. My eyes were wide open, facing a half-open door leading to the dimly lit corridor just next to the staircase. The only light came from a window just across the corridor, and my eyes were somehow pinned on it. That is when it happened, this awful memory that never stopped haunting me, knocking in the back of my mind, whispering to me whenever I stepped into grandmother's house. I remember it very clearly. As I was just about to fall asleep, the moonlight gleamed through the window, revealing a tall, dark figure standing in the left corner of the corridor. Instantly, I was awake. I didn't dare to move, not even to hide, as I was so scared. No matter how much I wanted to pull my grandmother's blanket and wake her up, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I stared at the corridor with terror in my eyes, my heart pounding like it was going to explode, and hope it was just a glitch in my eye, or something that would soon disappear. I kept looking at the dark shape in the end of the corridor that was just getting its shape in my eyes. The figure did not move. It did not say anything. But what I remember most vividly was it looked very strange. It sort of had replaced its head with a machine of sorts, a long nozzle and huge dark holes for eyes. I would later come to call him the vacuum cleaner man, because the thing looked exactly like that to me as a child. I tried to sleep, and at some point I must have, despite of all the terror inside me, because I woke up sometime in the morning to my grandmother's voice. I did not dare to tell her of the gruesome encounter in the night, as I thought she would deem me foolish. So I stayed silent. I had never been so terrified in my life, and the feeling did not leave me for years. I saw nightmares and refused to visit the attic ever again. since even thinking about it made me sweaty and cold. Until one day, when I was an adult, I was visiting grandmother again, and I remembered my dreadful experience. I shook the feeling of me the best I could and walked on to the living room. Photographs of my grandfather on the shelf drew my attention. I said to grandmother, "I was very small when grandfather died, and no one ever explained anything. How did he die?" Grandmother didn't bother to face me. She said to me from the kitchen, "He killed himself." "I'm sorry, I didn't know," I said instantly, ashamed that I must have caused great pain with my question. So, this is why it was never spoken about, I thought to myself. "Do you have more photos of him? I would very much like to see them," I said. "They're in the box," she said, and pointed at an old shoebox in the lower shelf. Grandmother went back to the kitchen, and I opened the shoebox. Loads of old black and white photos. Wedding photos, vacation memories, boat trips, and then, suddenly, images from the war. "It can't be," I said, and the photo dropped from my hand rapidly. In the photo was an old man in the midst of what seemed a trench and a gun to his side. Most notably, he was wearing something that made me shiver with fear. "Grandfather?" I said and flipped the photo around, and it did indeed reveal his name written in the back. What had shocked me to the core was an obvious thing that hadn't even crossed my mind before. My grandfather wearing a gas mask in the photo. A gas mask that had a nozzle, much alike in a vacuum cleaner, and two big holes for eyes that looked like the tires of one. I instantly saw why I had thought of a vacuum cleaner as a child, and why this had not even occurred to me as a possibility. I had not been very interested in war or such things as growing up, but now it seemed clearer than the day. "It's him!" I said and rushed upstairs through the slippery narrow steps, huffing as I tried to catch my breath. It was very quiet, until suddenly I heard the sound of a squeaking floorboard behind me. I shrieked and turned around to see it was grandmother. "You scared me," I said. "You saw him too, didn't you?" she said to my amazement. Yes," I answered, not believing what I had just heard. "He's been here all these years. I believe it's because he never got to know you properly. He wanted to watch over you," she said with a dry voice. "But now you are an adult. His work is done," she said and turned to leave. As I heard her walking down the stairs, I felt the weight of a hand on my shoulder. I was alone in the room, so I knew it was him. "Grandfather!" I gasped. "I'm not afraid anymore," I said, and the weight disappeared. I felt all the tingliness and uneasiness in my body disappear. The room felt clean. In that moment, I knew he was gone. I had solved my childhood mystery, only to find out the answer had been so close all this time. If I just dared to look for it. The end.
So, I hope you liked the story. Please like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also, if you're interested in my other platforms, there are links down below in the description box. See you next time.